All right, let's welcome everybody out today to the very first episode of 2020 for I Am Salt Lake podcast, episode 414. I feel like it should be like a different episode than 414 for the first episode of 2020,
But hey, it's still a good number, right? Nice round number.
Hey, I'm Chris Hollifield.
And I'm Chrissy Hollifield.
Hey, and I'm excited to let you know that this episode of the podcast has been made possible by our friends at the Salt Lake Barber Company, Libsyn, and also our awesome Patreon supporters. And we're going to be telling you more about all of them a little bit later on in this episode.
And if this is your first time listening to this podcast, you might be wondering what it's all about. Well, this podcast is all about showcasing awesome people in Salt Lake City, Utah. We get to talk to business owners, comedians, authors, tattoo artists, restaurant owners, breweries, distilleries, really anyone who might have a cool story to share.
Really cool stories to share.
Oh, yeah.
Who's joining us on this episode today, Chrissy?
So today on this episode of the podcast, we are joined by Ross and Sandra from Keto Konduct. Ross and Sandra share their story on what motivated them to start the keto way of eating and what led them to start their blog and Instagram page to help other people that might be interested in going keto.
Hey, what's really cool about this conversation, and I didn't even realize that until I woke up this morning, is today, while we're recording this introduction, January 5th, today is National Keto Day. So how cool is that we're putting this episode out with Ross and Sandra on National Keto Day.
It's basically fate.
It's basically fate. Also, I want to mention in this interview, Chrissy, you were mentioning how you're keto supportive.
Yes.
You were mentioning, you just bake me all these tasty treats since I do keto. Well, you informed me this last week, Chrissy, that you're going to give the whole keto diet a try again.
I really am, because I'm really jealous of all the energy that everybody on keto has.
And here's one thing I want to say is look at it like you're doing keto. Don't look at it as like a diet that you have to do over a certain time period. Just look at it like you're doing keto today, and then tomorrow you're doing keto again.
Yeah.
And it's just something you're trying to better yourself. I mean,
I'm doing baby steps.
Hey, over the last 2 years that I've been doing keto, I've been enjoying the ride. And I haven't always been perfect. Hey, before we get into this conversation with Ross and Sandra, I want to remind you to head over to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to this podcast. Leave us a review. Tell us what you think of the show, because we love to hear from you. We love to hear your thoughts. So leave us a review. And with that being said, let's get into that conversation with Ross and Sandra from Keto Konduct when they came to our podcast studio to share their story. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy. Are you guys both from Utah, or did you move here? What's the story there?
We're actually, we're both from California.
Whereabouts in California?
I was born in San Jose. We're in the Bay Area. We're both from the Bay Area.
So all up north?
All up
Yep.
north.
We actually just went on a trip down to Southern California. We just got back Monday, I guess it was.
Yeah, Monday.
So, yeah, that's actually where I'm from too. I don't know if you knew that or caught that. Southern California, though.
Where in Southern California?
Ventura.
Oh, okay.
So southern down near LA,
Right.
Santa Barbara. What brought you to Utah? Like, was it school? Was it a job? What's the story
It's a job.
there?
We're actually a military family. So in February is going to be 20 years for me in the military.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So our last duty station was Fort Dix, New Jersey, or now it's known as Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst.
Yeah.
And I got stationed here at Fort Douglas in the summer of 18.
Yeah, so we've been here just over a year.
Yeah, we're fairly new here.
How do you guys like it so far?
I like it.
Yeah.
I really like it here. Just because it's different than any place that we've lived in good ways, I think. And
so it's definitely on our list. Like, okay, out of all the places we've been, like, where are we going to retire? We're not going to go back to California. So where would we retire? So this is definitely in our probably top 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Were you nervous though to move to Utah?
That's a funny story.
Culture shock.
I'm always curious of this, of people, because it's been a while. I've been in Utah for a minute, so I don't really remember what it was like. And I didn't move here as an adult. And so I'm wondering if you hear stories, Utah's weird, they have dirt roads, they're 50 wives.
Well,
I cried.
It was so funny. I'm like, well, I had been here before.
Yeah.
She had never been here
Never
before.
been here.
And I was going to be sent to Germany.
Wow.
Right. And then kind of the last minute, they broke it to me. They're like, hey, we have this spot that we really need you to go to. We're not going to make you come here, but we really need you. And our son was going to be a freshman in college.
Your son?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And he was going to San Jose State, so he was going back to California for college. And so we were just like, well, Utah's pretty close to California. So let's, and so I went and I broke to her. I was like, look, they want me to go to Salt Lake City, Utah. And she just started crying.
Yeah.
And because she didn't know what it
I just
was,
didn't
right?
know.
People equate people who aren't from here or from the East Coast or haven't hung around with a lot of LDS people, they equate like Mormons to, I don't know,
Like Scientology.
not even no, it's not. It's
Like,
not Scientology. They equate to Amish.
Amish, yeah.
No kidding.
I've
Yeah.
actually heard that. I grew up in Wisconsin, and a lot of people thought I was Amish.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm at school. Why would you think I'm Amish?
Yeah, and so like you said, like dirt roads and no electricity. I'm like, nope, the LDS are people too.
So you like it now? I mean, you think it's cool? I mean, you're getting the hang of things. You're
we
figuring
love it.
things out.
We love it.
When we first moved into our neighborhood, I think it was like that day, our neighbors actually came over and introduced themselves. And that was something that I was not used to. And
Yeah.
so I was like,
Nowadays, it's kind of
wow,
like
people
a
are
scary
friendly.
thing to actually go outside and meet your neighbor. And I don't know why. Like, we've conditioned ourselves to be afraid.
Yeah.
Right,
Just
right.
stay indoors.
Yeah.
Just talk to your Facebook friends, right? Mm-hmm. So what got you guys into the keto diet? Let's just jump right there. Let's I got a lot of keto talk here I want to do with you guys. So
Well, she's actually been on the keto and low carb lifestyle like a lot longer than I've been. I don't know. Do you?
yeah, when I started keto, I didn't even realize that it was the keto diet just because I was actually have you ever heard of Medi Weight Loss?
no. What is this? Tell me.
It's a program. It's called Medi Weight Loss. And basically you go in, you meet with someone weekly, and they tell you basically, what your calories need to be. If you need any supplements, they check sort of your vitals and just make sure you're doing okay, because it is a very caloric restricted diet. And then they give you, what is it called? Drugs, basically.
Growth hormone is
like
HGC.
Appetite suppressants. They give you appetite suppressants if you need it. And when you're surviving off 600 to 800 calories a day, the appetite suppressants tend to be very helpful. But basically, you're in a keto diet. It's a very low calorie, low carb, low fat diet. So, yeah, it's basically,
It's not the healthiest.
I feel like I'm going to
It's not the healthiest diet. Yeah.
Yeah. You're literally going to die in this diet.
During that time, I had a shell of a wife.
So when did the knowledge come to you that you were like, wow, okay, find out about keto then, like that there's actually
they
this
want you to
diet
pee on the strips, and because they want to
for
make
this
sure-
other diet.
for the Medi Weight Loss.
Medi-
yeah,
Medi-
they I don't know if they don't sell them there, but they tell you can go to and buy them. So that way you can see if you're in fat burning mode.
So do they want you to go on a low fat though too?
Yeah, it's low fat
And then
as well.
they want you to go into ketosis. Is that hard?
Basically,
Like
it's hard. The appetite suppressants definitely make it easier to do, but it's not sustainable.
So what are you
long-term.
using for fuel then if you don't have fat?
The pills.
The pills.
Oh, the pills.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not still doing this?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
I was going to say, like, that just sounds horrible.
No, that was 9 months of just really destroying your body.
And why were you doing this?
I was really heavy. I was over 300 pounds, and I had really high blood pressure. I had really high cholesterol. I had high triglycerides, and I gained it really rapidly. And I was continuing to gain very steadily and very quickly. And my doctor basically told me that if I kept on this route, I wouldn't make it to my mid 30s.
Wow. So you turned it around. You decided to change it.
Yeah. Well, I got
kind of life or death.
Well,
I guess.
that day when I actually met with my doctor, I actually went to Carl's Jr. after after hearing everything. I went to Carl's Jr.
Stress eating, right?
Yeah, you gotta stress eat a little bit.
Because when I stepped on the scale, I hadn't seen the over 300 before. I had pretty much stopped weighing myself around 240.
So you weren't the type of person that was always struggling with weight then?
Oh yeah, I was always struggling. Even as a child, I was overweight. And so at 9, I was 140 pounds. So I always struggled with my weight. And eventually I just got to a point where, I didn't weigh anymore and I really didn't care. And I didn't really go anywhere. Basically, my fun in life was kind of just sitting at home watching TV and eating food.
Sounds good.
To be unbothered. Yeah. I was having a lot of fun. That was great for me.
Was that you over there talking, Chrissy? Was that
What?
TV and food, right?
I know. I was sitting here thinking that sounds like a magical place.
but it is. I mean, if you're not careful, I mean, you can easily gain weight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had extreme social anxiety. And so, just sort of, it was very easy to sort of spiral out of control. In my home.
Oh yeah. It's so much like when you have social anxiety, it's so much easier to stay at home and then you kind of eat out of like boredom or comfort or all of food that becomes your friends because going outside is scary. And I totally feel you.
So even though that was kind of like keto but it was low fat, like so when you left, or I guess wasn't at a hospital. This was at home.
It's a clinic. It's like you go in. They actually had one in South Jordan. When we first moved in, I said, whoa, they have Medi weight loss here. I haven't seen one of these in years.
Right.
But they actually closed down. You want to go back there?
She's like, no.
But they closed down. And so it's gone. So now it's just a vacant space. But I couldn't believe it. I was like, whoa, people are still coming here.
When did you start incorporating more fat then?
That wasn't until 2013.
Were you nervous that you were going to gain all your weight back then?
No, because I had already gained a lot of my weight back.
So you were kind of desperate. You were like, I got to.
It was a roller coaster ride, So basically, what I knew worked was cutting calories low. That's what I thought worked. That's what I thought you had to do in order to lose weight. So I basically roller coastered the entire way up until 2013.
We really dug into the science and truly what keto was kind of a little bit after that when we really started, hey, we got to pump up these fats, right? So I started having issues. Growing up, I was always really skinny. And then I got married and I'm not going to blame you. But essentially she was always on a low calorie diet, right? Mm-hmm. And we would go out, but she's Korean. And so if you've ever been to a Korean barbecue or anything, they have a bunch of small dishes all over the place. And so she likes to try everything. So she will order the entire menu and just eat a bite of each thing.
Oh, that is brilliant. That's what I want to do at every restaurant. Yeah. Yes. I love it.
Except for I wasn't trying to waste that money. And so I'd eat all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And I started packing on pounds.
That'll catch up with you.
Yeah, it totally caught up with me. But on top of gaining the weight, I also started having some issues with adult ADHD. And I to the point to where I couldn't even work. I'd go to work and it was almost like Office Space where you're just kind of staring at the screen and then I'd get squirreled and look around and it was bad. Like, so I ended up going to a mental health specialist and they prescribed me Adderall. And so I was on
the good stuff.
I mean, they went through the steps. I think they tried like Concerta first and some other things. And so I ended up on Adderall and I'm like, this is still not strong enough. And so they bumped it up. And then I started selling it. No, I'm just kidding. But it doesn't make you feel good, right? So when you're taking the Adderall, of course it worked and I could, read a book without having to read the same paragraph over and over and over again. But I didn't feel good. It made me feel dehydrated all the time. I was a little jumpy. It just wasn't a good feeling for me. And then one time I went to the doctor to get to the dentist to get a regular cleaning, and the dentist was feeling on my neck, and then they felt a lump on my neck. And he goes, I feel something weird and feeling around. And then he's like, well, I'm going to stop the exam right now. And how the military treatment facilities are, like the regular doctor was just right across the hall. I went across the hall. They're checking it. It's like, oh, it looks like your thyroid. And so we went ahead and had the test done, came back, and I was just on the cusp of hypothyroidism, right? I was right there. It was actually kind of scary because I went home. I was like, what is this? Like, is this cancer? Do I have thyroid cancer? What is it? And then we really started researching things that would help with that. And it's like, oh, the keto diet, but this is how you do it. Cause we thought that she was doing it already, but it wasn't quite the true keto diet, high fat, moderate protein, low carb. And so we're like, okay, we're gonna have to up these fats. And then we just went all in.
Yeah.
We went all in. It was around when we first started it, it was right before Christmas, and we're like, we're doing a keto Christmas.
And did you do it?
We did it.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I'll tell you what, man, some of the treats are like the keto desserts.
They're actually really good.
And the treats are like some of the best things about keto, in my opinion, because they're so good, like the fat bombs and the, I don't know, you make these little Reese's peanut butter cups.
Oh, yeah, make like little Reese's. And then there's like keto frosty. I mean, there's a lot of really good recipes.
Keto frosty. Tell me about this frosty.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Man.
It's so good.
Like with whipping cream.
Whipping cream and cocoa powder and stevia and just,
Oh, wow.
It's very good.
So how long ago was this? Like you said, 2014?
2013
I remember that number.
is when I found out what the true keto diet is.
And I mean, 2013, because it's really, in my opinion, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it's just because I'm more engulfed in the keto thing, but it seems like it's really exploded over the last year.
It's been crazy. I mean, you see people and everyone was kind of small as far as like social media, YouTube, things like that. And these are like your buddies. Next, bam, they got 1 million subscribers.
Well, so back in 2013, though, there wasn't all of that information out there, right?
And a lot of people were scared of keto. Even hearing about what the keto macros are and just the high fat.
You're gonna die.
Yeah, people thought that they were going to die.
The American Heart Association made such a huge push in the 90s
for low fat.
For low fat, and I think we've been conditioned as a society to think that fat is negative,
right?
And I think a lot of people are finally starting to realize that fat's actually really healthy for you.
Yes. We have to explain to people almost on a daily basis, when we get messages asking, are their arteries going to get clogged? I mean, we're not doctors, but, we tell them it's not the fat that's going to clog your arteries.
Right. And so when people ask for help, I'm like, oh, you're just chatting. What do? I'm a nurse. I'm like, well, the hardest part for you is going to be eating enough fat because you won't believe it. You're going to think that this fat is going to kill you because that's what we've been taught all the time is that, hey, I need to have my grains. You get the food pyramid, right? When it really, that food pyramid that we've been taught our whole lives should be turned upside down, right?
Flipped around.
Yeah. So it's really a tough sell for some people, but when you are doing keto and you finally realize how your body should feel when you take a break, you're like, man, I don't know what I was thinking all those years, but give me my fat back.
Oh yeah, man. Like I was telling you before we started recording how, I decided to eat some regular cookies one time. I ate a lot of them. They were Ruby Snap cookies too.
Right.
We saw them there.
If you're familiar with Ruby Snap with all the frost.
Yeah.
Anyway, you definitely feel it. It's interesting to see the results that way. Like if you want to ever test, is keto working or whatever diet you're doing, is that working? Try going off of it just for, a little bit. But all right, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Salt Lake Barber Company. Full disclosure, this is where I go to get my haircuts. This is where I go to get my beard trims. Isaac over there, he does a top-notch job. I love that guy. I've been going to him for a couple of years now, and I could not be more happy every time that I leave the barber shop there. They are located at 10 East, 800 South. Really easy to find, plenty of free parking. They offer haircuts, beard trims, straight razor shaves. Really easy to schedule an appointment, you guys. Go to saltlakebarberco.com, select the services that you want, select the barber that you want, and you will have a guaranteed appointment. They do take walk-ins if they're available, but again, it's really easy. Go to saltlakebarberco.com, select your barber, select the services, and you will have a guaranteed appointment. So with all that being said, many thanks to the Salt Lake Barber Company for their support of the podcast. Let's get back into that conversation with Ross and Sandra from Keto Konduct. Thank you so much for listening. Let's get back to it. I think I was telling you before, I know I was, a lot of people are doing New Year's resolutions right now, right? Like it's that time of the year. diets and exercise and feeling healthy, that's usually the number one thing. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are ready to start keto. Right. Like, what would you recommend to them? How would you tell them, like,
what's a good starting point? Where should you go?
Yeah, like one or two things here. Is there anything? Like, what would you say?
Well, I think if you're starting now, I think it's a great time to start, because just like you were saying, it has blown up. So there's so many resources, especially here in Utah. And Salt Lake, I mean, all the keto bakeries, all the different keto options that you can have, menus that are catering now to the keto diet. So I think it's extremely easy. And then you've got your people on social media who you can kind of follow and sort of get ideas from, watching YouTube, seeing the specialists, watching people's vlogs, things like that. There's plenty of ways to get, good ideas on where to start and recipes and everything.
Do you think it's a little overwhelming? I think a lot of people look at it, like you were even mentioning Facebook, and like I've had to leave a lot of Facebook groups just because there's such a mess in there. You might as well be talking about politics. And even though everybody's talking about keto. And so I think this might discourage a lot of people to start. And that's kind of what I'm wondering. Like, is there an easy way to start this?
Yeah. So when you are planning out your diet, right, you have to, it is very overwhelming, and there's all the stuff you can do. You start looking at these recipes and, okay, I got to go to the store. I got to buy almond flour. I got to buy, pork rinds, and I got to, but it is much simpler than that. All you have to do is you pick your protein. Right. And if you still like vegetables, you can pick a green vegetable and you add some fat to it, whether it be butter, whether it be avocado oil, olive oil, and you have to have some salt. You got to have other minerals. You got to have your electrolytes, or else you're going to run into some trouble, especially that first week or two. You might get the dreaded keto flu, right? So keep it simple at first. Protein, add a fat, and then have a green vegetable with it. And
that's easy peasy, man.
It's easy.
Like it really is. And I found an app helped me in the beginning. I don't know. Did you guys use an app at all? To track?
We use MyFitnessPal.
Yeah, we use a tracking app.
Yeah.
Yeah, MyFitnessPal.
Okay. Yeah. I think you used that for a little bit when you gave keto a try.
I've tried like 5 different keto macro apps, but the thing is, I suck at dieting, so I always give up.
I think it's helpful in the beginning of keto, especially just to kind of get an idea, because a lot of people don't really realize like what you have to eat, like how much fat is, or how much food you really. I was actually surprised how not hungry I was when I started keto. I was like, wow, I can actually, this is great. I'm not starving myself here.
Well, and like, it seems like the hardest thing for people is getting enough fat. Like that's the number one problem, because we're just not used to eating that much fat.
And at the beginning, what's funny is before I started keto, I actually didn't like butter. And I would get pancakes, I'm like, with no butter. Not because I was trying to be healthy. I just thought it was gross. Right. But then now I crave it. I'm like, can I get 3 more pads of butter, please? Right. So
just fill your coffee cup.
Just have a stick of butter like a lollipop. Yeah. You're good.
But the thing is that when you're on keto, your appetite goes way down. Right. And so I'm a keto bodybuilder. Right. And so the hardest part for me now is eating enough food in order to build muscle, because I'm not hungry enough.
So would you up your proteins then, I guess, to gain more muscle?
You kind of up everything, right? So for me, I go 1-to-1 as far as grams of protein to body weight, which some people go lower. They actually go 1 gram of protein per lean, but I go 1-to-1. So I get over 200 grams of protein, and I try to match that with the same number of fat grams.
Oh, wow. Right.
And then when you do it like that, your calories actually go way up. And just because fat is 9 grams or, 9 grams of fat is, I'm spacing right now. What is it? 9 calories per gram of fat, right?
Okay.
So you have the 9 calories per gram of fat, and then you have the 4 calories per gram of protein, and you end up, meeting your caloric goals that way.
And it's, I know people are listening. I mean, you look great.
It's working.
I mean,
right?
it's working. I mean, that's. I was trying to figure out, you don't look like you're withering away.
He's trying to tell you look good.
Thank you. I'm trying to keep my wife. That's the goal.
And that's the, another thing we were talking about. You get to a point where you're like, I don't need to lose weight necessarily anymore. I just want to feel good because I feel so good eating this diet.
Right.
And it sounds like that's what's happened
But Sandra's like, she's the police for me, right? So we were talking about our keto Christmas when we first started out.
Oh, he's going to call me out for being keto police.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I would call keto police.
Gotta be.
Well, it's so funny because my kids, I make this baked macaroni and cheese, and my kids love it, and I have to make it every holiday, or else my kids might kill me in my sleep, right? And so, when you're cooking, one of the things you do if like something drops you, like you just pick it up and throw it in your mouth, right? I was making the macaroni and cheese, and I was pouring the macaroni into a pan, and one fell down, and I went to go put it in my mouth. And this is at the beginning, and Sandra like slid over like a ninja and smacked it out of my hand and like hit me in the face. And she's like, but she was trying to save me. She's like, "What are you doing?"
I'm just living life.
You need someone like that around.
And that's the thing too. Everybody's different. Mm-hmm. You got to just relax and have fun with it, right? Like that's what. Now, do your kids do keto too, or is it just the two of you?
It's just the two of us. Yeah, they we won't make an extra meal, or Sandra doesn't make an extra meal. They eat the same thing as us, but then we'll have cauliflower rice and they'll have regular rice.
Yeah.
Right.
Or they might have sweet potato.
Yeah. Do they ever venture over there? Like, hey, well, I want to try some of that cauliflower rice.
Oh, yeah.
That looks pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, whatever they want to try, I definitely let them.
I noticed you guys are speaking at Keto Con too, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. Are you guys speaking at a lot of like keto events now and whatnot?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I know that you guys had Melissa and Tyler on there. Yeah. And so they threw the keto fair last month. And we spoke at the keto fair. That's how
you guys got on my radar.
Yeah, they were really excited about you guys.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
That's so cool.
So we got Keto Con. Last year, we were the MCs for Keto Salt Lake.
Yeah.
What was that? I must have missed that one.
Yeah. So it was last year. Was the
April,
first year. It was the first year last April, and it's going to be in April again this year. Right?
Next year. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, next year.
Well,
2020.
I'm already there too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, come on, let's get on with it. Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. Yeah. It really has been. It's been, like you said, it's been blowing up, and the same thing happened for us.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Libsyn. I know we have a lot of listeners listening right now, and you are thinking of starting your very own podcast. How do I know? Because you're emailing me. You're asking, Chris, how do I start a podcast? Give me some tips. Give me some tricks. Well, if you or someone you know, if you're in the process of starting a podcast and you are looking for truly the best podcast audio host out there, go check out Libsyn.com. We've been using Libsyn to host I Am Salt Lake podcast for over 7 years now, and I know that I truly could not be more happy with their service. They make it super easy to set up, and they make it super easy to get your podcast routed to all the podcast players out there like Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcasts. I Am Salt Lake podcast listeners, listen up. We created a promo code just for you to use, Salt Lake. If you use this promo code at checkout at Libsyn.com, you'll get the rest of this month and all of next month a free podcast audio hosting at Libsyn.com. That's spelled Libsyn, Libsyn.com. Use that promo code Salt Lake, all one word, and you'll get the rest of this month and all of next month a free podcast audio hosting. Go check it out. I think you'll like it. And you're going to send me an email and say, Chris, thanks for the tip. Thanks for the suggestion. And many thanks to Libsyn for their support of this podcast. So what is this Keto Konduct? Is it like a little blog you're doing, like with collecting like recipes and whatnot? Is that kind of what you have going on there? Or?
Oh, well, for Keto Konduct, it's just, basically we share recipes. We'll share workouts. It's a lot of food on there, a lot of sort of what we do daily, what we eat almost every day. It's sort of like an online food diary.
Yeah. and people really like the way that we interact with each other, right? So kind of like the whole thing with trying to eat the macaroni, she smacks that on my face. People just like to see that.
Sure. It makes you
people
human.
People like to see me be mean to him, basically.
Are you guys coaching people at all? Or I'm sure people were reaching out to you, especially, your Instagram's beautiful. Your pictures are great.
Right. So we are coaching people right now, and right now it's kind of private. We haven't opened it up to the public yet, but at the start of the year, we are going to start coaching folks, and we're working on that campaign kind of right now. And so So after the holidays, we're going to start letting people know that, hey, we're opening our coaching programs right now, and we're not going to take on too many people because we really want to give good service, right? We really want to get down and find out where people are at emotionally, right? Because that's the biggest part of weight loss and getting in shape is finding where they're at emotionally. Like I can give you a PDF with, hey, you should eat this, and it's very easy.
Here's your meal plan.
Eat less, move more. You'll get better, right?
Yeah.
But if that was the case, everybody would be in shape, right?
Well, I was just thinking, listeners of the show, right? Like if they wanted to hire you guys for their coach, right? Because they're like, hey, I want to do this keto and I want to make it work. Right, Chrissy?
Yeah, is that a hint?
No, I'm just. I'm giving her a hard. Here's the thing: Chrissy is the most supportive spouse with keto. Like she's always willing to whip me up food, and
I'm totally
and make
keto
me
supportive.
treats. Yeah,
I just get really lazy and eat saltines at work. So
But what if you had a keto snack? Like you'd eat that too, right?
I probably would. And I used to cook a lot. I used to cook and bake a lot of keto snacks and meals and stuff. And we've kind of tapered down.
Yeah.
Because Chris has gone a little bit more carnivore. So I'm like, who am I going to make food for now?
Yeah.
So I just don't do it.
It was funny because they have a bunch of carnivore cookbooks are coming out, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
what? It's a meat, right?
yeah. like, why do you need a cookbook for that? Like, you put some seasoning on it and you grill it, right?
One thing I'm even learning with carnivore, there's so many different levels of that. Like there's some that don't use seasoning, there's some that do, and there's some that
We actually bought a book that just came out called The Odd Bits. And it's all about it's all about like the parts of the animal nobody wants to eat and how to cook them.
Nose to tail.
It's very, And I was reading through it and I was really excited. And then when I started reading it, I'm like, this is kind of gross.
Yeah.
It's so good for you. That's
but it's
why
probably so good for you.
Oh yeah, when you're eating the nose to tail, I mean, you really don't need vegetables.
Yeah, because you're getting so many nutrients.
Our bodies, honestly.
I need vegetables though because I'm not eating nose to tail. I'm just going to put that out there.
He's not a fan of nose to tail.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. What do you tell people when they say, "Oh, that keto is just a fad diet"? I mean, I'm sure you hear that, right?
Oh yeah, all the time.
And so, I mean, what are you telling them? Oh, yeah, I'm going to be keto my entire life, or what? What do you?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's completely. One thing that we always talk about is just how sustainable keto is, and that's what we try to show people every day, that it is sustainable. It shouldn't be just used as a crash diet purpose. And, for people who stay on it long enough. Now let's talk about the fad adaptation phase.
That's an interesting phase.
That's a phase that I feel like people need to hear more about. Someone will, maybe eat keto for a week and they've just started, and then they pee on a strip and then they see that they're in ketosis. Well, just because you're in ketosis does not mean that you're fat adapted yet. It's going to take a solid 11 to 12 weeks with no cheats. So you do have to be very strict at first to get your body completely fat adapted, where it wants to use fat as fuel.
And then you'll be like, man, I haven't eaten since 9 this morning. I mean, you'll actually find yourself like not even trying to go long periods of time just because, at least for me, I don't know, maybe it's not for you guys.
No, that's totally true. Although weekends are hard for me if I were going to try to intermittent fast.
Yeah.
But I always try to take advantage. If I'm deciding to intermittent fast, I take advantage of the work week hustle, right? So when you're working Monday through Friday and you're busy, you can go the entire day without eating anything.
Easy. Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
I'll do like a few days where I fast. So I'll do
like a few days in a row.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I'll do like 3
I'm not that
days.
Yeah, we did a 3-day not long ago.
I do them periodically.
Okay, well, let's talk about this then.
Okay.
Do you prep yourself at all for this, or you just kind of like, wake up one
Just
day
go
and
for it?
let's do this?
If you've been like cheating on your diet at all, don't start right after. Make sure you're really in ketosis first, and then go into your extended fast.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're not in ketosis first, you're going to be really, really hungry.
Yeah, a lot of people will do that. They'll try doing an extended fast after a weekend of cheating on keto, and then that's just a bad time.
How do you stay hydrated during that long of a fast?
Water. You can drink water.
Oh, water, yeah.
Right. I mean, do you like add additional salt, or do you make sure you keep
salt.
up with your electrolytes?
Yeah,
So-
you put salt in your water, basically.
Right. So just, and the fast that I can't remember if the last one we did, if we could have coffee or not. Black coffee, right?
Black coffee.
So we can have black coffee
with
salt, and water.
How about bone broth?
Nope.
No.
You can't have bone broth?
Nope.
Oh.
Nope.
Not for the autophagy benefits of the extended fast, where basically after 24 hours fasted, your body says, oh, let's start breaking down all the dead proteins. Let's rid our bodies of dead cells.
Oh,
right?
it's such a good thing to do for you.
Yeah.
And then it maxes out. And then basically you go into sort of human growth overdrive. And so it's sort of like the fountain of youth. And then it maxes out on
about 3
72
days.
hours. So yeah, that's when, I never go past that just because for me, it doesn't make sense because the purpose, of the fast has been met basically.
There was, do you follow Jimmy Moore at all? Are you familiar with Jimmy Moore? I was listening to, he does a keto podcast. It's a silly name. I can't remember.
Living La Vida Low Carb.
Yeah. It's been a while since I listened, but I swear he was talking, I can't remember if it was 21 or 22 days that he fasted. And I just remember being like, what? That's such a long time to go without food.
It is. And so what you have to know yourself. For me, I have to be very careful after I fast because when I'm done fasting, I want to binge. And so if you go 21 days, I might just go into Harmon's or Smith's and just eat the entire everything, right?
10 pizzas.
But everyone's different though, because I don't feel that way after. I actually time when I'm going to eat because I could probably keep going on without food. Because once you've reached that third day, the second day is a struggle. But once you've reached the third day, you're sort of in ketophoria. And you just feel like you could just exist and continue to go on. It's a really awesome feeling when you've made it to the 72nd hour.
I mean, do you think that it's based off of your body composition though? Meaning like, hey, if you have a little bit more fat to lose or fat to eat and live on, like, I think you might be able to go a little bit longer because once again, after you get fat adapted, that fat is your preferred fuel source. So if you have a good amount of fat available, you can go longer.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering. Like, I don't do a lot of fasting myself, really. It's just something I've never really got into. And I think it's just years of raised LDS, and we always had to fast that first Sunday of the month.
Yeah.
I know. We have
I have these nightmares of fasting.
PTSD
PTSD of fasting. So
yes.
Is this something? I mean, do you think you should work up to it? Right? Like I shouldn't just do 3 days right off the bat. Like maybe try a day.
Yeah,
First of all,
24
fasting
hours.
isn't required. Like a lot of people
exactly.
do keto and they think you have to intermittent fast and then you start working up and you're like challenging yourself. I'm going to do an extended fast. First of all, fasting is not required. Now, other people will tell you otherwise, but I don't believe that it's required.
Oh,
I don't think it's required.
No, I don't either.
Yeah, I think it's just purely if you want to reap that benefit, from doing an extended fast. Especially, they're finding that the fasting is helping with loose skin.
Well, I want some of that fountain of youth.
Yeah.
I know you look like when you guys said you had a college age son. I was like, "There's no way you're younger than us. You have to be."
He turns 20 in a few
on the
weeks.
21st.
Wow. It's crazy.
so crazy.
It's crazy, man. Like once you get in your 40s, you're just like,
Yep.
when did I get old, man?
Exactly.
Like it's the worst.
But now it's a badge of honor, right? You're like, what? Dude, I'm 40.
You just gotta own it. Yeah.
Besides keto, right? Like besides doing all this stuff with keto, like what are some of your other hobbies and interests? Like what are some of just to get to know you guys a little bit? Like who you are?
Obviously, I said I'm in the military, so that's a huge part of my life. And I've been doing it for 20 years and it's hard to separate from it. So part of staying in shape and things like that are just part of me. Right. And I did go through a phase where that wasn't the case. I kind of lost myself and gained that weight and things like that. And now it's just ingrained. Like if I skip the gym a few days, I'm just like, hey, we got to go. And that's a big part of our life. Like we go together. Like if we go a week without going to the gym together, we feel like, we really need to work on our relationship.
Our relationship's falling apart.
We totally go together. She's my swole mate.
I love it. So spend a lot of time working out and whatnot. I mean, do you get out of Utah much, or you kind of? Well, I guess with the military, you probably are.
We do. We tend to spend Thanksgivings in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we go. So
we did go to Las Vegas, but why would we want to leave Utah? Utah's awesome.
Are you guys winter people at all? Do you guys take advantage of winter?
We have not gone skiing yet since we've been here. We have not been.
I have a fear of breaking my leg. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Wait, have you ever skied before in your life? Would this be a first time?
This would be the first time, but I have visions of attempting to ski and then tripping and then ripping my hamstring. I don't know. I just have like these fears of skiing.
Well, I knew a girl in middle school who hit a tree and fractured her entire leg, and she had like a leg hip cast.
See, that'll be me.
Now she's definitely not.
I have the same fear. I'm with you. Let's stay safe. Let's live in a bubble.
But I love looking at the winter.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I was just curious if you guys were winter people at all, being from California. Well, you're up north. I mean, they get some snow up that way.
Yeah, well, we're not too far away from Tahoe, and so that was where everybody went. So I have been skiing before in Tahoe, not a bunch of times, I think, once or twice. And I was a very basic skier. Like you have this vision of the Winter Olympics and you're thinking you're going to go on the slalom, and that didn't happen. But I was able to stand up and go down the bunny slope pretty well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What about most memorable concert or sporting event, right? Like, as we're getting to know you guys a little bit, it tells a lot about people, right? Like, what's the most memorable concert that they've been to?
I went to in California a thing called Summer Jam.
Oh, I knew he was going to talk about that.
I always talk about
that was the old school. That was the old school people, wasn't it? Like too short.
Too short. So the one that was my favorite was Naughty by Nature. Was there the Loonies? So everyone was, I got 5 on it, and everyone's smoking in the on the lawn section. But I always talk about this part. Notorious B.I.G. was there. It was awesome.
Did you get to shake his hand?
Is awesome.
I did not. But his DJ kept messing up, and he turned around and he threw a water bottle at his DJ. That was
what
cool.
Diva.
I know. But I always talk about that because the iconic.
I knew he was going to talk.
That's awesome.
Biggie Smalls in concert. Yeah, I can't even remember how old I was.
Jeez, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, he died in 97, so it was before that.
Mm-hmm.
So
you were in middle school.
Good times.
No, I was in high school.
Oh.
Yeah.
And what about you, Sandra?
Geez, when it comes to concerts,
or sporting event,
and sporting events, I really hadn't gone to any until I met Roy. Just because of my social anxiety, I never
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I never ventured out much. And then when I met, even after getting out and losing weight, I still have some sort of social anxiety, like when it comes to certain things, events or getting together kind of deal. But Roy definitely got me out of that. I would see sort of his excitement to go somewhere, and I'd be like, okay, well, this shouldn't be so bad. Okay, he looks like he's pretty happy about this, I guess. Like,
if it gets like the worst thing is you can just stand behind him and let him talk to people.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens, right? And then after a while, then you take over.
Yeah.
Once you get comfortable.
Yeah. Or sometimes I don't, and then it's like, okay, let's go now.
And I think I skimmed over you for hobbies and interests, right? Like you were meant, or I guess the gym, to do the gym together.
The gym.
Okay.
Which is kind of lame, right?
So
you like the gym? That sounds like a manufacturer, but it really is like what we do.
No,
I like to cook.
Okay.
Yeah. Cooking is fun.
Now, do you guys do a YouTube channel too?
Yeah.
And then that kind of goes over like to different keto tips, suggestions, ideas. Like, what are some of the stuff on your keto channel?
It's basically just vlogging.
Okay.
Well, that's what we've gotten into now. And so now we've found out that people want to see sort of like a day in the life kind of deal. And
those are tough.
Yeah, I had someone request they wanted to see my house,
Just like no, I don't want to clean.
I've had people ask if
they
could
want to
see
watch
my
her
refrigerator.
Yeah. Wait, really?
Yeah. That's
creepy
huge.
people.
Clean with
no.
me. Yeah, no, there's a whole series on YouTube called Clean With Me.
Wow.
And so, yeah, people just like watching,
I mean, it makes sense.
things.
It's like, that's why reality TV became big, and now YouTube is kind of where everyone's going for their
We're all voyeurs.
reality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
I just posted sort of a shop with me Christmas shopping.
Oh, a video
The video, yeah.
on your YouTube. And then
Yeah.
people can find that just Keto Konduct. Is that
Correct.
is that what it is? And I'll put that link at iamsaltlake.com as well with this episode. Let's shift gears to Utah a little bit, right?
Okay.
Let's talk. And I know we kind of talked at the beginning. You're new here, right? Like, so I was kind of getting some of your reactions. But there's a few standard Utah questions that we try to ask on the show to everybody that comes through here, just to get ideas, right? We're always looking for things to do, stuff to take friends and whatnot. So that's why I'll ask people, hey, we have family and friends that come and visit us. Where do we take them? Like, I'm sure you have a few spots by now, maybe that you like to take people or show off. I don't know. Mountains, city.
Yeah. We are not skiers, but we do like to hike on occasion.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was one spot that we found, and it's a secret. No, it's called Secret Lake up there in Alta. And it was just awesome. You go up there and there's a lake in the mountains. I'm like, how does this happen? Right. So we go there, we take the kids, and they're playing with tiger salamanders and things like that. It's just a beautiful spot. We haven't been there in the winter, but when it was summertime,
Beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Any other places or?
Well, I went to Prohibition,
Okay.
and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
that's
so,
a cool
yeah, that
place.
was a good time. I'm definitely going to go back there, and their food was awesome.
And I think a place that you have to take people, because when you think of Salt Lake City, you think of the LDS Church.
Yeah.
Honestly, Temple Square
it's
is
beautiful.
really awesome. It's beautiful, a beautiful place, and we like to take people there when they come.
People have a natural curiosity about the LDS religion. Because a lot of people who haven't come to Utah, I mean, a lot of our family are visiting Utah for the first time to come see us. And, it's definitely not what they expected either. So
I'm actually surprised more people that come on the podcast don't recommend the temple. Not a lot of people do. I mean, it's beautiful
true.
architecture.
And I think a
beautiful
lot of it's
ground.
because we see it so often that we want to help people. Like, we want to take people to the more obscure places, but it's a big piece of the area. It's really cool to go
Well, a
see.
lot of those places exist too, like in California. So we want to take them somewhere different.
Yeah,
Right.
true.
Show them something they haven't seen before.
You mentioned Prohibition. Any other favorite local eating spots? Any other places or food trucks or just anywhere you like to grab lunch?
I like Pig in a Jelly Jar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good spot.
He likes Penny Ann's Cafe.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That's Chrissy's jam.
So good.
Is that your jam?
Oh, yeah.
What do you order there?
Well, I'm bad. I get the French toast and the breakfast nachos. So nothing that you would eat. They're very good.
I don't go there if it's not a cheat day.
A cheat day.
Okay.
I can
Have you had the
actually-
breakfast nachos? You've had them?
No, I haven't. I
You
just
need to
said
have,
FYI.
on a cheat day, go both of you get breakfast nachos at Penny Ann's.
Really?
It is so good.
I like the,
Yes.
what do I get? The pot of gold?
Yeah, he gets the pot of gold. I
haven't
actually
heard of
I keto-fy my breakfast.
Yeah, she's always good when she
I
goes
get
there.
the
I'm getting like
omelet.
hash browns with gravy
No
on top,
potatoes.
and then let me get one of those magical pancakes that you guys serve. It's
Hey, you make it work, man. You make it work. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You gotta do it.
A lot of people think that eating out is hard to do when you're on keto, but it isn't. It's not, you guys. It's you can.
I mean, are there any tips? I mean, like for me, I just tend to order like side of bacon. I used to get a side of eggs or you can get an omelet.
the key is you're going to a restaurant and you're paying money. Order what you want.
Yes.
Right?
Have them modify
you're not
what you
stuck
want.
to the menu. You can modify it, right? And when you find out places that you go to, so say you go to Red Robin with the family and they have these awesome bottomless fries, but guess what? They offer bottomless broccoli too.
No kidding.
Yeah. So you can do that, or don't stress out. So Sandra talked about getting fat adapted. So once you become fat adapted, your body prefers the fat. So if you go off schedule, when you come back very quickly, right? And so I tell people I eat keto 85% of the time, but my body always prefers fat, right? So if it's something to where you're going somewhere and everybody's, you don't want to be the odd man out and everyone's eating non-keto, eat non-keto. If you've already been fat adapted.
Yeah, if you've been fat adapted, do not do it if you're first getting fat adapted, because then you're going to have to start the entire process over again.
For beginners, how do you know when you're fat adapted? Sorry to jump back to keto.
No. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
Forget Salt Lake. Let's talk keto.
Yeah. So, that's a good question. How did you,
you can definitely feel a difference, but for someone who wants that proof in front of you, then just testing yourself, testing on a ketone meter and doing it. Some people do it every day. I wouldn't recommend that. Maybe every few days for the first 11 to 12 weeks.
Right. And so the absolute minimum I would say it takes for someone to get fat adapted is 6 weeks. That's absolute minimum. So don't bank on that. Go more. So go that, 10 to 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. In that time frame, your body pretty much has created a new metabolism, and fat is the preferred fuel now. So I would go more based off of the time and the number of weeks that you've been doing keto strict. And you have to be honest with yourself. Like, have you really been strict? Have you really been in ketosis for 11 weeks?
You have to make sure, because if you have a cheat day while you're first starting keto, now just because you're in ketosis does not mean that you're fat adapted. So if you have a cheat, your body still does not prefer fat as its fuel source. It wants glycogen.
Yeah.
And so if you give it glycogen, it's going to say, oh, yay. But then even if you go back to keto, it doesn't work like that.
It's like you have to start over again.
Yes,
exactly.
You'll have to start over because you gave your body that glycogen, its preferred fuel source at that time. And so it's going to take that entire amount of time. So it's like, okay, you can do it. Stay strong. 11 to 12 weeks, you know what I mean? If you've been strong that long, just think about how successful you're going to be, after that.
Yeah.
But
order what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Order what you want. So, if you go to a restaurant and they have broccoli, say, hey, a lot of places have loaded broccoli or loaded, baked potato. Turn it into loaded broccoli. Hey, can I get cheese and bacon on that broccoli? Absolutely.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Sour cream, all that. I always ask for a side of avocado or tomato. I mean, it's only a few slices, of tomato.
And then tomato, if you have a lot of weight to lose, a lot of fat to lose, skip the tomatoes, right? Skip the tomatoes, but go with the green veggies or with the cauliflower and
squash,
a salad. And then the cool thing about keto is you can get ranch dressing on it, right? You can get extra ranch, get extra cheese. Exactly. Right. And then, just relax, have fun with it. Don't beat yourself up. It's very simple. A protein, like I said, a low carb veggie, and throw some fat on there, whether it be cheese, whether it be butter.
A lot of people are eating keto meals and don't even realize it.
They think they're being bad.
Yeah.
But they're being so good.
Steak and eggs and butter.
Yeah.
Back to Salt Lake City. One more question that we ask is, would you change anything?
Oh.
Like, what would you change about Salt Lake City if either one of you? You have the same, I'm sure you have different answers, same answer. I don't know.
I'd like to have a wine subscription.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Isn't that crazy that we can't get wine shipped here?
Yeah.
Some of our favorite wineries, it's like, oh, well, we're moving. And they're like, it's okay, we ship. We're moving to Utah.
Because they'll get in trouble if they ship, huh?
Yeah.
You can't ship booze to Utah.
Yeah, because they have a lot of keto wines and stuff too, right?
There's so many keto wines I'd like to try.
I have to Google that. I have to Google it.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was keto wine.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Usually any of the lighter wines are going to be keto, aren't they?
Like white wine.
Oh, yeah. There's
wine as long as it's a dry, you can taste it if it's a really sweet wine.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be keto and be drinking like Moscato or something like that. You can't do that.
Full of sugar.
Yeah. What would I change? I really wish the folks of Salt Lake would stop running red lights.
Okay.
That's,
I like that. You guys are bringing some new stuff to the table. Usually I always hear like liquor laws or the air, which we need to change,
right.
but we all know
our drivers
that, right?
are terrible.
Like, let's address some of the small problems.
You know what's funny? Because we're from California and we've lived in New Jersey and we've lived in
all
Austin.
These bad, quote unquote, bad driver states. No,
and then it's like Salt we Lake came here gangster. And I was like, because in California, if you don't go right when the light turns green, people are going to honk at you, right? But here, if you go right when the light turns green, I mean, you
might get
die.
T-boned. Yeah.
Fair point.
It's great. You just know, like, after the light turns red, there's one more
You got to
car.
wait a minute. Yeah, you just got to wait.
Not a bad idea. It's just safe, you know.
Mm-hmm.
How can listeners of the show get a hold of you guys? Like, what's the website? I know you're on Instagram. I don't know any other social media that you're on that you want to plug or
everything is Keto Konduct, conduct with a K, right? Mm-hmm. So Instagram, Keto Konduct. We have a website. It's ketokonduct.com, as well as on Facebook. Oh yeah, and YouTube.
Okay. That's right, YouTube.
Everything's Keto Konduct. And you'll get to see Sandra. She's much prettier than me.
And I'll put all those links at iamsaltlake.com with this episode as well. So if you didn't write it down, just find this episode and click on through to there. Now, was there anything that we didn't talk about that you're like, gosh, I really want to mention, or anything you want to say? Or I mean, I kind of try to open it up right now before we completely wrap this up, right? Like if there's anything you want to say.
Well, Sandra kind of touched on it earlier as far as if you want to go keto, you're actually in the place to be, right? So Salt Lake City, I like to call it Keto Zion, right? So when a lot of folks in the keto community, they think of Austin, Texas for some reason. Austin, Texas is like the place for keto. And, I beg to differ. It really is Utah, really is Salt Lake City. We have so many companies here, so many bakeries. It's really amazing. When we came here, we didn't even realize that we were kind of in this keto hotbed. So if you have questions, hit us up on our Instagram. Instagrams are probably our main thing, right? So hit us on Instagram with any questions, and then we'll lead you in the right direction where you need to go if you want to live the keto lifestyle, and how you can get some good keto treats too, or make your own.
Have you guys ordered those cupcakes? The
keto cakes?
Like, did deliver them and whatnot?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they just sent us.
We just got some.
Are they good?
Oh yeah. We should have brought some over.
They look
we didn't know. They have the cupcakes. They also have cookies. They have cheesecake.
They have bread now. And then there's another awesome company, Oh Hello Bakery. Okay. They actually live in our neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh Hello is awesome. They have a lot of great cookies. My favorite thing that they make is, if you like pecan pie, they make these pecan bars.
Yeah. But they also make pie. So they've been making pie for the holidays. They make
it's
loaf
keto.
bread. It's
all keto.
Yeah.
Everything's keto.
Yeah.
I always get the pecan bars.
Okay, so I'll order some pecan bars. Make a note of that.
Oh, yes, I'm making notes right now.
Yeah, we're so spoiled out here.
It is really cool. I love how Utah caters to so many different types of lifestyles.
And I think it's kind of that entrepreneur thing.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to start a business here. You know, a lot of support and whatnot. So I'm sure that has to do with it too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Throw your final question out there, Chrissy. It's been great chatting with you guys. Chrissy always ends the podcast with her final question, so I'm going to let her take it away.
All right. So each of you independently, if you could leave our listeners with one piece of life advice or a motto that you live by, what would it be?
Never party with someone who won't fight for you.
Dude, I like that actually.
Ooh, that's actually really good advice.
Yeah. I like that one. I was going to say, do you, boo-boo?
Many thanks again to Ross and Sandra from Keto Konduct for joining us on this episode. All the links that we mentioned in this conversation can be found with this episode's show notes on our website, which can be found at iamsaltlake.com/414. That's for episode 414.
Hey, and it's the first episode of the month. And those of you that have been listening to the podcast for a while, you know this is the episode where we give some love to our Patreon supporters, all of them, all the different levels of Patreon supporters. Which, if you want to become a Patreon supporter, really easy to do. Just go to patreon.com/iamsaltlake. We'll also have a link for that on iamsaltlake.com. But let's read down the list here. We got some awesome supporters here. We got John Miller, Mark Copeland, Todd Bjorkland, Tim Horan, Nicole Davison, Alex Santee, Brandon Hill from Mountain Standard Time Marketing, Will Dugdale, Brittany Hemingway, Jeff Hadfield, Eric Tomorrow from Mediocre Show. Love that podcast. Sana, Brett Schmidt, Alan Martindale, Nick Naylor, Three Irons SLC, Nikki Line, Michelle Stevens Williams, Margaret from Dirt in Your Skirt, Christopher A. Heiser, Jay Chambers, I love our Patreon supporters. Really great people. One thing I want to mention, we're going to be doing a lot more with our Patreon supporters, our Patreon feed. Go to iamsaltlake.com, and then there'll be links there to connect to our Patreon as well. And thanks to our Patreon supporters.
That's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to show your support for this podcast by supporting our show sponsors, Salt Lake Barber Company and Libsyn.
And you can also easily support the podcast by sharing your favorite episodes with your family and friends on social media. All you have to do is share the link, go to iamsaltlake.com and dig through the back catalog and just share one of those links right out there on Facebook. And that way your family and friends know about the podcast and it's not your dirty little secret. Hey, you guys have a great week. Get out and support local whenever possible. Spend time with those that you love, and we're going to see you next week on the next episode.
And good night, Grammy.